Hello and welcome to the Royal Blue podcast. It is the Wednesday show following Everton's 1-0 win over Bournemouth at the Vitality Stadium. Today's show is unfortunately not live, that it was only one way of bringing you the episode today. So joining me via remote video link to talk all things Everton, and Bournemouth, we have Tony Scott. Tony, I guess it is that time of year when Father Christmas makes his important deliveries just before Christmas, and you've just got to be in the house to collect what's going to be knocking on the door. Isn't that right?
Of course, and obviously it's football orientated, being with myself and my son. So, I'm just waiting for certain parcels to come through the door. But apologies to anyone obviously listening in. I'll make sure I'm in the studio with me Everton Christmas jumper next week.
Absolutely. You're all good anyway. Obviously, big result last night. Got to be feeling positive. Got to be feeling good after that.
Oh, it was a fantastic win, wasn't it? It really, really was. To go to Bournemouth and I did have a worry at the start of the game, mainly due to the fact that the manner of the defeat on Saturday against Newcastle, and also the substitutions that we could have called upon. What I mean by that is that the squad depth, I looked at the Everton substitutes bench and it didn't make powerful reading, to be honest, when you look at it in terms of bringing numbers in to help you out in a tough schedule for Everton at the moment. The likes of Nathan Patterson, 2 goalkeepers, 2 academy players, Beto, Dwight McNeil. I was looking at that bench thinking, I hope these 11 lads have got it on within themselves to get it done in the 90-plus minutes it took. But listen, they did, and it was a fantastic win, albeit in different circumstances than the ones that we've had this season. And what I mean by that is they're actually going down to Bournemouth. Yet they've got injuries themselves, but to go down there after a bit of I wouldn't say embarrassing defeat for Everton against Newcastle, but it was a tough one to take for all Toffees, wasn't it? We all went to the Hill Dickinson Stadium full of optimism going into the game on Saturday, and then to leave the ground after a 4-1 defeat, it was kind of a sucker punch for us Blues and a bit of a reality check for where we were. But to go down to Bournemouth and play the football we did, I think it was pleasing to see. I thought Everton were absolutely terrific on the night.
Yeah, I thought we did play well, and we will come on to that. And I described it on social media. It's always probably the most Moyes-esque win ever. I mean, like you say, battered at the weekend. Personally, I did think it was a little bit embarrassing 4-1 at home. I don't think that's good at all. But the next game we turn up with a depleted squad, and we win a game that we weren't expected to win. So all you can say is well done to the manager and fair play to the players for the response.
Yeah, and I think that's countless amounts of times Everton have come back where it looks as though they're down on the floor and they bounce back straight away. I think Kieran Joly looked like he'd went to one of the Everton's social media guys straight after the game and went, that's how you bounce back. And you've got that mentality within the squad. There's some big personalities in that Everton team now, and not just in the Everton team, in the full squad, that can be relied on in the changing room. Seamus Coleman springs to mind, Jordan Pickford, James Tarkowski, Jack Grealish has been round the block. Obviously, Iliman Diaz has been well experienced now. So there's a lot of big personalities in that dressing room now at Everton Football Club. And it just shows the mentality and the team spirit David Moyes is building something big there at the moment, because teams go on runs where you've seen what's happened across the park, where you can easily go on 2, 3, 4, 5 defeats on the spin. I just don't see that happening with this Everton team. Maybe I'm shouting out loud here, but I really, really don't see it, because of the mentality, the personality and the character that's installed in the squad. And that's down to David Moyes installing that belief within the dressing room, and then going to Bournemouth. First time you've ever gone to Bournemouth in the Premier League and took a victory. First time you're going to Old Trafford and beating them in 13 years. That's just not off the cuff, that stuff. That's time and time of effort in Finch Farm, behind the scenes, mentally and physically as well. So I'm sure that David Moyes will be re-emphasising, listen, we know what happens at Old Trafford on Monday night, but we followed that up with a poor performance against Newcastle. Now, let's not do that again this week. Let's make sure that we're backing this result up, because it's easy. A lot of neutral Premier League supporters will be looking at Everton's result going, well, hang on, they've done that on Monday night against United, and they followed that up after a defeat that was live on the cameras. Well, we've gone to Bournemouth on Tuesday night. Let's see if we can follow that up with a second statement, because it's about consistency now, Ian. Everton have played well in patches this season, and pick the moments in games. Quite easily, games there have gone against us. Tottenham springs to mind, where them games got to come for us, but they didn't. But the games have gone for us, as I've touched on several times on the episode, your Brightons of the world and your Wolves and your Crystal Palaces, where you're picking your moments in games. So it's absolutely crucial that when you do pick your moments, you take advantage of Everton did through Jack Grealish, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is an interesting point that you make about the characters in the team and obviously the leaders. I think we'll come on to it, but I think Kieran Joly Hall is starting to develop into one of those, and we'll come on to him in a little bit. Just before we do, Tom, I just want to mention to the listeners that this is one of two shows that we've got out going today. So the second, so we've got this show, obviously we're going to do a bit of a deep dive on the Bournemouth game, but we've also got a second audio-only show, which is going to feature Joe Thomas and Chris Beasley. They basically recorded their thoughts driving back from Bournemouth this morning. So keep an eye out for that one on all Royal Blue audio platforms. That is a special bonus episode there for you. I think Joe and Chris obviously were extremely keen to get their thoughts across after a really positive, promising win. I'm not sure they'd be doing the same if it was a defeat, but fair enough. You take your wins while you can. So obviously this episode will focus on Everton and the 1-0 win at Bournemouth. I mean, so it was, I guess, people have described it as a depleted squad. I think the first 11 could have stood up to most Premier League sides, though, if I'm being totally honest. And fair play to Moyes, whether you could argue that the changes were made out of necessity and he was forced into them, or he just got it right. I guess that's all open for debate, isn't it? I mean, Alcaraz got his start. I thought he contributed well. He looked shattered towards the end. Bit of boom and kept his place after what was obviously a poor performance on Saturday after being hooked as well. I don't think many would have given him another chance to play against Bournemouth, but again he stood up and was counted for, and he bounced back. Obviously Garner's gone in at right back in place of O'Brien, who's moved over for the injured Michael Keane, and Kieran Joly Hall's dropped a little bit deeper. So I guess my question is, have you seen, based on last night's game performance, obviously results, is there a coming together of maybe a different blueprint for David Moyes to start using to get the best out of this squad? Because it was a different 11 compared to what we've seen.
It was, and that was obviously due to the injury to Michael Keane, who's been absolutely fantastic for Everton this season. So with that, it's nice that you've got a James Garner that can fit in a right back role. Jake O'Brien slots in a centre back, because that is his natural position. But I think a lot of eyebrows were raised when Timmy Ruben's name was on the team sheet, wasn't it? Because we didn't think that he'd be starting for Everton due to the fact that how bad he actually played at the weekend at Hill Dickinson against Newcastle. So we all thought, hang on, here we go. But that, again, that just goes to show that how good of a coach David Moyes is, that the fact that he's probably said to Timmy Ruben, right, he had a bit of a nightmare on Saturday. It's one of them. Got another game to put it right. That's the beauty of Premier League football. There's a game straight away coming for Timmy Ruben. So you put that game at the back of your mind. Let's do something about it. And I thought Ruben was really good yesterday. Put himself about. Yeah, he's picked up that yellow card now, which will mean he'll miss the game at the weekend, which we've got, obviously. We've got a lot of injury worries and suspensions in that part of the pitch, which is going to be a concern for David Moyes, no doubt. But that's for him to worry about at Finch Farm tomorrow. But in terms of yesterday's performance, I thought there was a lot of strong candidates for man of the match. I thought Jack Grealish looked back to his true and full self. I thought Iliman Diaye, likewise. I thought Thierry Barry done everything that came by score. Actually feel sorry for the lad. He's playing well. He's holding the ball up. He's linking up play. When the ball goes up, he's flicking it onto a blue shirt. I think there's a lot of positives that he's bringing to this Everton team at the moment, but actually putting the ball in the back of the net, which obviously he did. That's his big thing that he should be doing. But apart from that, I thought Jake O'Brien was fantastic at the heart of the defence. James Garner just brings that little bit more as a right back, which Jake O'Brien lacks. But yeah, Jordan Pickford made a big save when he needed his pawn. That's another clean sheet for him this season. Mykolenko, apart from one or two errors, I thought did okay. But there's a lot to like. I thought it was a throwback to a version 1, of a David Moyes that we seen as Everton manager when he was first around. When you get men behind the ball, but you can tackle. What I like about this David Moyes version at the moment is the fact that they look a lot more intense on the ball. They're not just sitting in deep and waiting for moments. They look as if they want to get on the ball and they're running after teams. And that's pleasing to see. Them toffees that are travelling up and down the country at the moment are witnessing arguably one of the best away records in the Premier League at the moment. In fact, only Arsenal have won more away games this calendar year, which says a lot for how well David Moyes is doing on the road with this Everton team. And what they're doing, they're coming out the traps and they're taking it upon teams. So these Everton fans, I know you probably won't like to admit it, but you're probably thinking to yourself, well, I don't mind if we have a go and get beat, then so be it, because there's nothing between us and your Bournemouths and your Brightons and your Brentfords of the world and Crystal Palaces. So why not have a go? Have a go with them from the front foot. And if we get beat, we get beat. I'd rather get beat having a go than sitting in deep with 10 men behind the ball, like the previous manager and the previous manager before him, and just sit back and going, let's hold on for a 0-0. This Everton team aren't holding on for 0-0s away from home. They're going for it. And that's pleasing to see, because you pay your money, you take your chance. So if you're going for the attack and you get done by a counter-attack, then albeit you lose. But more often than not, if you got Jack Grealish and Iliman Ndiaye on the same team and you're going for wins, 9 times out of 10 you'll get them. And that's been proven. The amount of away victories we've had this calendar year has been fantastic.
Yeah, and that was one of Moyes' staples from the back end of last year, to be honest, wasn't it? We know how poor the record was at Goodison Park, before Moyes came back, but he picked up, off the top of my head, I'm sure it was a good 5 or 6 away wins from home. So yeah, I mean, that is a positive.
I think Brighton, Fulham and Newcastle were on the back of last season alone.
Forest.
So Forest as well. You've obviously got Old Trafford, Molineux this year as well, Vitality, and there's still 2 or 3 where you could possibly look at and go, hang on, we've got Stamford Bridge to go to, we've got Turf Moor to go to, we've got the City Grounds again to go to before the year's out. So Everton's records in 2005 away from home can get a lot better than actually what it is.
Yeah, I think so. To be honest, look at the facts. We're 9th after 14 games on 21 points. That's been unheard of for the past couple of seasons. It's taken us, I think, until like February to get to 21 points. And look, I get some of the fans' frustration over the past couple of weeks. We've all been a little bit frustrated. I think it just stems from some of the manner of the defeats, obviously the home ones, and obviously referring to the Newcastle 4-1. You don't want to be getting beat 4-1, regardless of who you're playing at home. And I don't think anyone would have been... If we get beat by Newcastle and it's a close game, it's 2-1 or it's a 1-0, I think you're leaving disappointed, but you're not leaving, infuriated, are you? And same with Spurs, 3-0. Well, these are good teams, Champions League teams, but I just think we probably let ourselves down in those games. But we've bounced back each time, haven't we? The United game, obviously the Bournemouth game last night. And one thing I will say, To, is records are obviously here to be broken without sounding too cliche, but psychologically as well, we go into the Bournemouth game thinking, there's going to be a struggle here tonight, probably take a point because we've never won at Bournemouth Stadium, which is astounding, to be honest. And obviously a lot of that comes down to the fact that Bournemouth haven't been in the Premier League up until, a good couple of years ago. But we've broken that record. We've broken the United record again. So psychologically wise, we should, any away game now, any home game now, it doesn't matter who we're playing, whether we've got a bad record against these teams, we should be going there with every, confidence that we can pick up points.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Ian. I think the momentum within the fans as well, travelling up and down the country, to go to Old Trafford, as you've just touched on there, first win since 2013, and then to go to the Vitality and beat Bournemouth in the Premier League for the first time, says a lot for the coach, the team, and the fans as well. There's a momentum there that we're going to these away grounds going, well, hang on, well, why can't we get a result here? Well, have a go. As I just touched on there, you'd rather have a go and get beat than rather sit back behind 10 men behind the ball and pray for a draw. Because as I touched on, 9 times out of 10, if you've got very good players on the football pitch like we have at the moment on either flank, and you're going for wins, there's a very, very good chance you'll get the wins. And that come through Jack Grealish yesterday. And we deserve that slice of luck, don't we? Took a little bit of a distraction, but Everton were on top. It really were on top. They dominated that game. Yet in the first half was a little bit, I don't know, because it went their way, because it went our way. But since the second half, Everton just took total control of that game. And not many teams will do that to Bournemouth. They really won't. You've seen how good of a side they are. They can pass you off the park at times. They've got energy. They've got power. They've got pace. The recruitment's one of the best in world football. We know how highly thought of it is. And don't get me wrong, they did have injuries and they had a couple of suspensions themselves. But to do that, to go down there I think it's a big statement of intent, what Everton did there. And it just shows you the mentality of those Evertonians, doesn't it? Like, we come out of the Newcastle game. I spoke to a lot of the Blues in the Bramley Moor pub after the game, and obviously how the game went on. They're going, still worried about going down, still checking over your shoulder. We're on, obviously, 18 points and everything else. And then you're looking at the likes of your Burnleys and your Leeds, and I go, no, don't be worrying, we've got good players. And now, what a win can do. Now, we spoke to the same Everton this morning. They're going, right, I'm dusting off my passport, and I'm thinking about Europe straight away. So that's the beauty of being an Everton fan, isn't it? The fact that you can go from looking over your shoulder within 1 week of relegation and then looking towards dusting your passports off.
I do love that, but I do think it's a bit of a concern as well. It's too up and down. I mean, obviously after the Newcastle game, we were all infuriated. We weren't happy, but in the podcast that we did, I think on the Monday, maybe in the past there would have been a little bit more vocal and critical of the team and the manager. And don't get me wrong, I didn't expect to go and beat Bournemouth. I didn't think on the Monday, oh, well, Everton's going to be all right. But I just thought it's so up, it's so down. We obviously kind of just need to be in the middle a little bit. And I don't know what that entails. I think one thing is for certain, it is a bit of a roller coaster ride. I mean, you are right. Bournemouth obviously dropped off a little bit, and you can question whether they're on the same level as like Newcastle, but they're still down there or still in a similar position as Newcastle, and they've certainly got a good number of players in their squad that you'd probably say you'd definitely get a first team shout for Everton. I mean, there's one that you definitely wouldn't substitute for from an Everton point of view is Kieran Joly, Tony. I mean, last night, I'm going to say, I'm not the only one who said it, but Kieran Joly should have been playing in a more of a deeper lying holding midfield role. And again, it's probably been pushed back further out of necessity. I don't want to take anything away from David Moyes and his team selection, but obviously with Alcaraz coming in and the lack of options in midfield, it was Boom and Kieran Joly, and I just felt we looked a little bit more comfortable with him playing a little bit deeper. You could see the midfield balance was there. I felt like he was progressing the ball forward. Some of his passing, because he's got that space in front of him, was so crisp. It was so on target, and he was bringing the ball forward as well. I be honest, I thought there was a couple of candidates, as you said. I think Jake O'Brien was up there. Probably who else was up there? Probably you could maybe say Alcaraz, but I thought Kieran Joly was my man of the match.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think Dewsbury's had a hell of a week, hasn't he? Obviously, that goal at Old Trafford. The goal against Newcastle as well was world class, which will probably be forgotten about in years to come. The fact that he actually trapped it and then knocked it past, obviously, Ramsdale, it was a brilliant goal. Not as good as, obviously, Bergkamp to the world and whatnot, but it was still a hell of a goal. And then I followed that up with a terrific win. I think he's got the bit between his teeth at Everton, Kieran Joly. You can see that he enjoys playing his football here. The Evertonians have took to him, and he's took to them. When he speaks about the football club, he always speaks about the fans as well. And I know it's an old cliche, and players can come out with oh yeah, I'm doing it for the fans, but you can see it in his face that it actually means something to him to play in front of these supporters and what it means to them. And I think that he's enjoying his life at Everton, and there's nothing better if he's enjoying his football than then performances are going to blossom. And the fact that he's pulling the strings, and I think with him at the moment, I think he needs to fit alongside an Ruben alongside him, or someone with a big physique or a big stature. But because I think that when you're coming up in the Premier League to play in that 10 position, I think you need to. I think it's a little bit. If you want me to ask me personal opinion on that number 10 role, I think it's a little bit outdated, to be honest. I think there's not many players that play in that role in the Premier League in terms of world class. I think you've seen Liverpool, what's happening today with they brought Florian Wirtz in. It hasn't fitted in for him in that number 10. Like, they put him on the left-hand side now. I think Cole Palmer probably springs to mind. He's probably the best in that position, but then again, he can drift in and out and onto the wing. So where Dewsbury's been playing in that 10 role, I think the game's passing you by in the Premier League now because it's so direct. So your midfields have got to get on the ball, or you get long throws, or obviously set plays now where the defences just go along to the centre forwards. So I think that number 10 role is becoming a little bit dated in the Premier League. With that, I think Dewsbury, with being the ball player he is, it fits him ideally to play in that number 8 role alongside maybe a Ruben or just a Ghana guy, because if he's got the ball, he's going to hurt teams. He's got a wand of a left foot. We've seen what he's done this week. He can do some damage with it. And yeah, I'm a big advocate of making him make sure that he's in that number 8 role. I'd rather see him in a deep line centre midfield role alongside a Garner or just a Guy or a Rubenham along there, and then you can maybe put an Alcaraz or someone else or a Tyler Dibbling or whatever it may be in that role fitting in there. But Jude Bjorn's a proper footballer. Probably, if you want to look at him, he's a proper Everton footballer, made to play for Everton Football Club. That's how I recommend him.
And he's, you said it in so many words there, but he's thriving with the responsibility. For me, he is, I don't think he's quite there yet, but he's certainly starting to become one of the leaders, the vocal leaders in the team. He's always coming out, like you say, if things don't go right, he'll make sure that he comes out and says stuff, and he's always praising the fans. He always seems to be in shock at how the fans react to goals. I don't know where the teams that he played for in the past, the fans don't celebrate. But yeah, I'm been very impressed with them over the past couple of weeks, and hopefully there is more to come. Jack Grealish, let's talk about him. So you give him a little bit of praise there before we. During the podcast a couple of minutes ago. I'm going to be totally honest. I don't think he had his best game for Everton last night. Obviously, he got the goal, and it was a little bit lucky. What I'll say about Grealish, and this is an absolute positive comment, by the way, I think he's not being his best from an attacking view over the past couple of weeks, but you cannot question his work rate and energy levels, certainly against United when obviously we didn't have much of the ball, and he played so well from a defensive aspect point of view. I thought he was fantastic. There's absolutely no questioning about that. But we know what Jack Grealish can do. We know what he can produce. And for me, this is just another occasion this season where Grealish has turned, he's got the winner and he's turned a draw into a win. So there's basically, obviously he scored the winner against Crystal Palace, There's another 4 points that we've got, which is literally down to Jack Grealish. And okay, both of them are a little bit lucky, but you've got to get in those positions to score those goals. And for me, £12 million a year, albeit for 1 year on loan, it's starting to look like a bit of shrewd business, really.
It is, but it's like, where do we go in the summer with them? And that's the big thing. We, as Evertonians, we fall in love with loan players, and then they can go and break your heart. And that's possibly what we could be seeing in the summer. Listen, that's got another conversation in the summer, but right now we're enjoying him. He's bringing another dimension to Everton. He's putting Everton on the back pages all of a sudden. He speaks well in front of the camera, and he loves, you can actually see, and again, like, probably like Kieran Joly, very similar to him, that he's enjoying his football at the moment. And in the past couple of years, when you've seen Joly at Leicester and at Chelsea, and you've seen Jack Grealish at Manchester City, you've not got a smile on the face. And because they're sitting on the bench and watching all these world-class players play in front of them, now they're at Everton, they're playing week in, week out, and they've got a smile on the face, and they're doing the damage when they got a ball between the feet. So it's pleasing to see. With Jack Grealish, yeah, I'm probably right what you're saying, Ian. The last couple of games, Newcastle, and Fulham particularly as well, that we've seen a different side to Jack Grealish's game. We've seen him backtrack, and we've seen him helping his full-back out. We didn't see him offensively great on the ball. We've seen another side to his game, probably like we haven't seen Jack Grealish before. We've seen him obviously very influential at Aston Villa, playing that 10 role, where he wasn't asked to obviously track back as much there. And obviously at City, when he's got defensive world-class midfielders behind him, so Pep Guardiola is never going to ask him defensively to put a shift in. But offensively, that was a question for obviously Pep Guardiola to answer for. But for Everton, he's doing a bit of both. He's offensively good. He's tracking back. He's doing a lot. And again, another one with a smile on his face. That question will be asked in the summer, whether Everton financially can make that a permanent transfer. But for now, it's great to see with him, smile on his face, doing some damage in an Everton shirt, because when he has got that ball at his feet, it automatically attracts 2 or 3 defenders straight away. So that frees up a centre midfielder. It'll free up another player to get on the ball. So yeah, it's pleasing to see Jack Grealish at the moment bringing another string to his bow. And again, what he spoke about in the reaction interview on Sky, he mentions again about David Moyes, how instrumental he was in him to sign up for Everton Football Club. Kept on speaking, David Moyes, he absolutely loves this manager, and long may that continue.
There was a lot of love around last night, wasn't there? Certainly with the comments, and I'll come on to them, I'll read them out. What Grealish said about Moyes, but Grealish also kissed the badge as well. Are you a big fan of that? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not.
A lone player
because
kissing the badge.
we've seen it so many times, haven't we? Wayne Rooney's kissed the badge, and next minute he was down East Lancs Road within 6 months. So listen, we probably know more than anyone, don't we, in terms of players that have kissed the badge, and next minute they've sailed on to pastures new straight away. But I think if he did kiss the badge, and he shows you what it means to him. I think sometimes it's an off-the-cuff celebration that when you're in the moment and you've just scored a winner with 10 minutes to go and the Everton fans are all in front of you, then it's so easy to look at the badge and show your affection to it. So it's quite easily done. Whether he means it, we'll see in the summer when he's talking about wage demands.
I don't care if he does, to be honest. I'm just enjoying him now, and that's the main thing. I've got it in my head that it's going to be for one season, and that might be mutually beneficial for both parties, if we're being totally honest.
Would you break your heart, Ian, to see him in another club?
Not really. So I'm old enough now at that point where I don't necessarily fall in love with footballers like I did with maybe when I was younger, a Nick Barmby or a Gary Speed who ended up moving on to or a Duncan Ferguson. I guess God, that was probably the worst one, wasn't it? So I say I'm a little bit more mature now and old enough. I'm happy. The fact that we've got Grealish, undoubtedly, and if he stays, well, he's going to stay for the season. If he keeps performing and scoring goals like he does, then fantastic. But it'll just come down to money, won't it? If he stays for another season, it'll be his wages, which are extremely high. I don't know whether we can negotiate a price with City because they were looking at 40, 50 million. Are you going to play that for a 30-year-old? I don't think Everton probably should. So if it ends at the end of the season and he's got us into top 10 Europe, which would be fantastic, then fantastic. So be it. I mean, well, we'll see what happens. We are ninth, aren't we? Like I say, there was a bit of bromance. I mean, you've touched on it there, but in the Sky Sports interview after the game, he said this on David Moyes. I love the manager to pieces. I can't speak highly enough of him as a person and how he makes me feel and how he makes me want to play for him, and credit to him. So I think, do you think he just not enjoyed his football over the past year or two before he came to Everton? I mean, he wasn't playing under Pep Guardiola, so I guess that's a fair assumption to make, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it probably is. I think what happened to him, where he played an instrumental part in City winning the treble, didn't he? He played a lot of games in that Champions League win, and obviously in that season as well when they won the domestic treble. And I think that to go from being an influential character and player in a team that's just won the treble to then being on the periphery and just sitting on the bench, I think it can be demoralising, and it doesn't matter how much money you've got in your bank. It can be demoralising to be in 1 minute you're high as anything, and the next minute you're on the floor. So mentally, that can be a huge blow to anyone. So you can see why all of a sudden he's come to Everton and he's idolised, he's loved. You've seen the scenes at the end. You've seen the scenes only walking around Merseyside, the amount of shirts. My lad's got one himself with Grealish number 18 on the back. Now, you wouldn't have thought that 12, 18 months ago that young Everton fans would be walking on the streets of Merseyside with Jack Grealish shirts on. You'd never ever thought of it, and that's due to the fact that he's got his game back on track with Everton, and Everton are going in places as well. So it's like a bit of a marriage at the moment, isn't it? In terms of where the both of them are at, he's obviously looking to get his relationship back on track with football, and Everton are looking to get further up the table. So it's a match made in heaven at the moment, and long may that continue.
Okay, moving on. I want to give special mention to Jake O'Brien, to be fair, because he just seems to be going about his business extremely quietly, but in a really good way. If I'm being totally honest, obviously he mentions he had to come on. He was forced to come on against Manchester United and did his job. Okay, Newcastle, we know wasn't the best, but he's had to fit in for an injured Michael Keane in centre-back. So effectively it's a new partnership with James Tarkowski. I can't remember if that partnership has ever played in a full first team game for Everton. So, whatever way you look at it, he's still been thrown in at the deep end. Is this the sign of maybe the future for Everton and Jake O'Brien? I guess what we're crying out for from our centre-back pairing is a little bit of a competitiveness. Obviously, we've got Branthwaite out, and it's been Tarkowski and Keane. I don't know what we would have done if one of them had been injured. Luckily, we've got a James Garner, a versatile James Garner, who did well again last night at right back, who can slip in there as well. So all that's a positive. But I'm just extremely pleased, really, that Jake O'Brien got his chance at centre-back yesterday, kept a clean sheet, obviously, alongside the other three defenders and Jordan Pickford. And obviously, I don't know what's going to happen on Saturday. It's all going to depend on whether Michael Keane is fit or not. I guess we're desperate for Michael Keane to be fit, really, because it would make sense that he could come back in as centre-back. O'Brien could go back as right-back, and then Garner could slip back in the midfield, because it's the midfield where we're obviously a little bit light, so people are playing or having to be forced to be a little bit versatile. But any word on Jake O'Brien? I think Chris Beasley gave him man of the match on his point of view. I think he gave him a 9.
He got Premier League man of the match as well, didn't he? You've seen him obviously holding his man of the match award back to the changing room. Yeah, he played really well, Jake O'Brien. And it's so easy to forget, isn't it, that this time last year he was sitting on Everton's bench, couldn't get a minute. Couldn't get a minute under Sean's ice. He was sitting there, not playing the game, and David Moyes came in. I thought, you know what, you'll do for me. You're going to be playing right back. You're the answer to my problems here. We're conceding too many goals. We're getting beat every week. You're my man at right back. And Everton haven't looked back since, especially away from home, as we've touched on there. Everton's incredible records away from home in 2025. So, yeah, I thought Jake O'Brien was fantastic last night, and it's great to have them players that can fit in everywhere. I've always reverted back to like James Garner is basically Moyes' version of Phil Neville back in the day, that you've got these players that can play right back, left midfield, centre back. You can't have enough of them. You look at the likes of Arsenal's team and Chelsea's team and all these teams that are obviously above us at the moment, but they've all got players that can utilise the positions really, really well. So that's where Everton are very lucky to have your James Garner, the world, your Jake O'Brien that can fit in, because we have got a small squad. As I touched on at the top of the podcast, that you'll only have to look at that bench to see how small the squad is there. Obviously, we had 2 academy players in the 20s, by the way, 2 goalkeepers, Nathan Patterson, obviously Beto and Dwight McNeil. So that tells you where the strength and depth is in terms of our squad. So while you've got the likes of your Jake O'Briens that can fill in and utilise other positions, it's a great strength to have. But I thought he was absolutely fantastic. And to be fair, he's hardly put a foot wrong this year, has he, Jake O'Brien? To be fair, since David Moyes has come in, you can probably count on one hand how many errors he's had leading up to goals. He's been really good for Everton Football Club this year. And I think that was a big, big reward for him. And mentally as well, because it must have been probably difficult for him at times, coming in from France to be sat on the bench for the best part of 6 months under Sean's ice, going, hang on, why have I made this move? What's going on here? And then David Moyes has put his arm around him and gone, right, you're my man at right back. And he's been absolutely fantastic since, hasn't he?
100%. Got to mention that the Travel and Blue support, Tony, how important were they in the away end last night? I mean, I know there was a bit of trouble getting to obviously Bournemouth from Liverpool. I know Joe and Chris, it took them over 7 hours, and I was seeing a couple of tweets from fans saying they're still an hour away from the stadium and it was approaching kick-off time. So, you know, the dedication is obviously unrivaled once again, but you could see how much it meant to everyone involved, really.
Yeah, I tell you what, they're the lucky ones, aren't they? They've seen a lot of Everton wins this year, as we touched on at the top of the podcast, the back end of last season and this season as well, with 3 and more away games to go. But they're fantastic, and not a surprise with me with them, to be honest, because this football club, and I touch on every single week in the studio, Ian, is that we've got a waiting list. We've got 20,000 people on a season ticket waiting list. Then you're having a ballot just to get a general admission ticket. And then you're talking that these away supporters, that you just cannot get an away ticket for love of the money. It's sold out, the allocation, every other week away from home. Fanatical, absolutely unbelievable. Everton Football Club is very, very lucky, considering we share a city with Liverpool Football Club, a team that's probably won every single trophy there is to win since we last won one. And yet we're still selling out Hill Dickinson Stadium. We've still got 20-odd thousand on a waiting list. We're still in ballots for general tickets, and we're selling out our away allocation every other week. It's unbelievable support, one of the best in the country, unrivaled.
And this is one for a future podcast, but I just thought I'll mention it now. Dwight McNeil did get on the pitch. I'm still standing by my prediction that he's going to have some sort of an impact over the next couple of weeks. Whether he goes out on loan in January or is sold, maybe. But with Illiman and Dye, obviously off to AFCON, it seems to be, it's going to be a battle between Diblin and McNeil. And at the moment, McNeil's getting the nod every time from a substitute point of view. Obviously, that could change. But, the squad is depleted, but there are certainly a couple of players on the bench who do come on and maybe not make an impact, I'm telling you, I'm making a prediction. He's going to have an impact. He's going to score a winner, a long-range winner at some point.
I think, Ian, you're right in what you're saying. I think McNeil's getting the nod ahead of Dibbling at the moment, just through sheer work rate off the ball. I think McNeil gives you more on it. Probably Dibbling does more with it in terms of quality. But I think at the moment, Moyes wants his workers in there. He wants the lads putting the yards in, behind the ball, on the ball. He just doesn't want lads who are looking good on the ball offensively. He wants them tracking back. So Dibbling needs to be looking at the likes of your Dwight McNeil, your Kieran Joly, your Jack Grealish of the world, your Lennon Diaz. They're not just very good on the ball. They're very good off it. So Dibbling needs to be looking at these characters every day at Finch Farm if he wants to share it.
Yeah, I think from the dynamic of making a sub point of view is you're never going to bring a Tyler Dibbling on if you're 1-0 up away from home.
Yeah.
Are you? You're only going to do that if you're 1-0 down or you're 2-1 down and you need someone to make something happen. I mean, he came on against Newcastle, didn't he? But obviously that wasn't he was never going to do anything to change the game around. Yeah. Okay, so we'll finish off with today's pod that has been enjoyable to speak of. It's always nice to speak about a win, obviously, but momentum-wise, we've jumped up a number of places to 9th, top 10. I mean, we know how tight the table is, and I know there's a round of fixtures tonight, Wednesday night at the time I was recording, so we could drop down, I guess. But in terms of how we're looking, secured 9th to a point, expectation again into the festive run-in, Forest on Saturday. I guess it's important to pick up 3 points against Forest because of the 2 games that we've got following on from that. Chelsea away from home is going to be tough. Arsenal, obviously at home, regardless, is going to be tough. Be nice if we was to say pick up 1 point from those 2 games. But I think overall, including the Forest game, if we were to get that win, what would that be? It'd be 9 points from 12. I don't think anyone probably would have predicted that. So we've still got to beat Forest first. So I get that argument. We've got to see what happens. But, even which I know Sean Dyche has picked them up a little bit, but there should hold no fear whatsoever.
Oh, no, most certainly. And you know what Sean Dyche is going to be at in terms of how his team are going to be setting up on Saturday.
It'd probably be harder for us to break them down, to be honest.
Probably will, to be fair. Yeah, you're probably right. It's going to be a tough game. You listen to everyone. In terms of predictability, they'll sit in. They'll look to counter-attack us with the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White, etc., Elliot Anderson. So, it'll still be a tough game for Everton to try and win, but we're going in there with momentum. Now, that's 3 wins out the last 4, and we're looking up. We're not looking behind us, and that's pleasing to see now. Going into the Earl Dickinson Stadium Saturday, momentum behind you. And it was a thought a couple of weeks ago after the Fulham game, going into the international break, we're thinking, oh God, we got United away, Bournemouth away, Newcastle at home, can't see us getting any points, and already we've got 6. Looking forward to Forest on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will have a Forest preview show on Friday as well. Don't forget about the bonus show with Joe and Chris. And obviously, if you're listening to this on YouTube, thank you. If you're listening to this on Apple and Spotify, thank you. And just checking, so are we doing a post-match on Saturday?
Yes, I'm up for it, mate. I'm up for it. Forest hopefully talk about 3 points.
I mean, to be fair, we didn't do one for Newcastle. Now, people might think we just thought we'd jib that off because we got beat 4-1.
That was pre-planned.
It was pre-planned that we were never going to do a post-match after the Newcastle game. Yeah. So fingers crossed we get a win against Forest, and we'll have at least half an hour talking about the Blues winning.
Nice one,
Yeah, all good. All right, well, thank you for listening to the show, everyone, and we'll see you soon.